saw aircraft hit, exploded and go down. I remember seeing parachutes coming out of another lank, smoke coming out. Yeah, never forget that.
Welcome to the Avro Heritage Museum podcast. John Monaghan joined 166 Squadron at RAF Kirmington in February 1945 as a wireless operator on the Lancaster bomber. He made 18 ops from March to May, including Heligoland, Berchtesgaden and Berlin. He also participated in several Operation Manna missions, humanitarian food drops to relieve a famine in the German-occupied Netherlands, as well as several Operation Exodus missions to repatriate Allied prisoners of war from Europe to Britain. The voices you'll hear are of author and blogger Frank Plesac, John's son Andy, and myself, Ian Sanders, the oral historian at the museum. We start the chat with John looking through his logbook and photos.
So you're 98, John?
Yes, so far. That's my aircraft. My aircraft, as I call it. AS Jig. You see, our squadrons, Northing 166 Squadron, I think we're the only squadron, had 2.5 Brownings at the rear end, not 4 Brownings, like everybody else.
Really?
That had 0.5 Brownings.
So 0.5 rather than 4.303?
Yeah. They were fitted with a local firm in Lincolnshire somewhere. Rose Brother. I think they called it the Rose Turret.
I've seen pictures of that, actually. I didn't realise it was...
Most pictures of Lancs have got 4 pointing out at the back.
Yeah,
but ours only had 2 half-inch.
Yeah, and I think, didn't they have to modify the actual perspex?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Yeah. Yes, because they only need 2 spaces, instead of 4.
Yeah.
On the daylight raids that you were doing, did you see any German fighters?
No, I didn't, but maybe the gunners did, I don't know.
But did you hear anything through the intercom system that they were seeing anything? No.
No, I don't remember that. No.
It's, on a lot of these, it says that the actual the defences were quite light for a lot of it, and there was very few. I think in those 18 raids, there was only 2 squadron aeroplanes lost in all those bombing raids that you took part of, which I find quite amazing. Yeah. It was towards the end of the war, of course, but...
it's not all.
Yeah. And when you went to Hitler's headquarters in Bavaria, do you remember that raid?
Oh, I remember that. Absolutely glorious day. It was, better than this, but that was a morning raid. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that was a day of our raid.
All the Alps, and it was a beautiful raid. And of course we bombed it, but on that Berchtesgaden, we bombed, of course, with all the others. But on the way back, we discovered that we'd got a hang-up. I think it was the I don't know, there was a 2,000 pounder or a 4, but it was a big one, the big single one. And that had hung up. The bomber couldn't release it. So it fell to me, that was part of the training, part of the setup, that it was up to me then as the wireless operator, because the manual release for this particular bomb, I think it was number 26, I'm not sure, in the floor, quite close to me, there were a number of little flaps, lift the flap up, and there was a little toggle underneath it, a manual release. So the bomber did his stuff at the front, and as we were flying back, he spotted a lake. It was called, on the map, I've looked it up since, Lac Wurm, W-U-R-M, somewhere in southern Germany. And I suppose the bomber aimed at this lake, and he gave the OK, and I pulled this lever, and away it went. Yeah. So we came back, as we should, empty, no bombs. Yes, I've tried to look up whereabouts this Lac Wurm is. It's still there, of course, but I'm not quite sure now. I think it's somehow changed.
Wurm's a town in Germany. I'll check that out.
Did you come under any anti-aircraft fire on any of the raids?
I suppose we did, but I don't remember it particularly.
They do
I saw
talk about
plenty of it, of course. Plenty. Saw aircraft hit, exploded, and go down. I remember seeing parachutes coming out of another Lanc. Smoke coming out. Never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
The only damage we had was, I'm not quite sure, but on the rear fins of the Lancaster, not only does the tail do that, but I seem to remember that there was a little canvas patch.
Trim tab.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think so.
Something or other. It's always interested me to think that, that massive aluminium, and then they finish up with a little bit of canvas as a final trimmer. That was damaged on one return, I remember, but it was nothing. Yeah. That's the only bit of flak must have hit it.
One of the things that it's confused me for a long time is that the Lancaster had a trailing aerial that you wound out and wound that out. And that was your responsibility.
Oh yeah, it was just here. Just like that,
yeah. And what happens if you forgot to do it? Did you get charged by the ground crew because they had to manually wind it in?
I don't know. Don't know what they
because you never forgot to wind it in. You always
you had to do that, as quick as you could if you're coming in. You had to make sure the aerial was in. Yeah.
It's fascinating that they had this aerial that wound back, and I think you had to wind it in when you opened the bomb before you opened the bomb doors as well.
No, I don't remember that.
No.
I think once it was out, it was out. Don't think the bomb doors affected it. They might have done, but didn't have to wind it in.
Yeah, it's funny that, such a sophisticated aeroplane for the time had this bit of wire dangling out of the back that had to be wound in and out,
So. I guess at the distances they're flying, that's the only way to get a decent length aerial.
Yeah. It had a series of weights on the end of it, I remember. Lead balls, I think they were. I'm not used to keep it, more or less in check.
Yeah, I think they used a similar technique for the dam busters to try and gauge the height, when they were learning how to fly very low, but it didn't work because as they flew fast, it got caught in the slipstream, so it didn't give the thing, so they went to that lights. And then the other thing, of course, was the little-known Operation Exodus, where you were actually doing repatriation of prisoners of war.
Each Lancaster brought 20 POWs back.
Yeah, you've got in here Exodus Brussels.
Was it quite crowded having 20 prisoners of war on board?
I don't know because they were all behind me. I don't think so. No.
Right.
How did they seat them? Did they just?
I don't know.
They just bunged them in.
I don't know. They must have.
They probably weren't fussed as long as they got home.
Perhaps they weren't bothered. They must have just squatted down.
The only comment in the operation...
They were all behind me, I know, there must have been. There was no room up front, but they were all behind.
The only comment in the operations book is that they didn't provide them enough pegs to store the stuff. Didn't mention about the seating or anything like that. Or on-board catering.
Well, I mean, if they're doing Brussels back to UK... It's a relatively short hop, I guess, depending on where were they flying to? Do we know the...
He doesn't say, but I think it was probably back to Kirmington, because I think they went to various hospitals, didn't they, afterwards, around Lincolnshire. There was a big military hospital they went to.
I was to say, it's a pity I didn't take more interest in doing a proper log.
What were your thoughts about the Lancaster? Did you like it as an aeroplane? Was it interesting to be in? You've flown in quite a range of different aeroplanes.
I don't know. It was just another aeroplane.
Yeah.
Didn't have any feelings for it, really. I don't. It worked. That was the main thing. There and back. Apart from that hang-up, I remember that particularly.
Yeah. It's incredible, really, what you did. And in such a short space of time as well, you were on really significant, flights, the Exodus and Manna, Berchtesgaden and Heligoland, which is I find fascinating, and Potsdam.
Mm.
Potsdam being Berlin, but...
So the raid to Berlin, did you see... Was that daylight or night?
No, that was night time.
So the Berlin defences were still...
Oh, I think they were. I'm going to say... I have a strong feeling that at that stage of the war, all the German defences, guns, particularly the night fighters, I think they were all at the peak of their efficiency.
Right.
And that, I think, was probably one of the most dangerous parts of the war, was that tail end. Mm. It wasn't a tailing off. It was that sort of, because the Germans were, they were at the peak of their efficiency. Yeah. By that time, they'd had 4 or 5 years practice.
Yeah.
There was a raid there, I remember. Luckily, didn't go on it, but our squadron certainly went on it, remember that. And it was to Nuremberg. That was a nighttime raid. There must have been an awful lot of Lancasters must have taken part in it, because the losses on that particular raid were tremendous. I'm not sure, but I think we lost 90 Lancasters. Right. Not from the squadron, but from the whole operation. That was towards the end of March at Nuremberg, night time, and we were on it. But we went to briefing, of course. We briefed on it. And between the briefing and getting in the aircraft later on, our navigator complained of a migraine. And it was so advanced in the raid that they didn't have time to swap another navigator. He was taken off, and our crew were taken off that, and possibly another crew went on, but we didn't go.
Wow.
Because he was in the same plane. In your plane.
No, there'd be a plane, there'd be a standby ready, you see, a standby plane and a standby crew for such an eventuality. But I say, he said he'd suffered from this migraine. He may well have done, I'm sure he did. But we didn't go on that raid. And I'm quite glad, because I say that was a horrific night. And have you got a record there of raids on Nuremberg towards the end of March?
It will be in the ORB, but I've only selected the I'll send you the complete list of I'll send you all of it, but I only pulled out and printed the ones that you were actually on.
And I remember thinking at the time, thank goodness we didn't go on it, because the losses were tremendous for the whole operation. I remember that.
Were you aware of the survival rate of crews?
Don't remember. No.
Did it concern you? No. I find it amazing, what they went through, and it was just like a job,
Oh, there's one of the crew.
That's your crew, is it?
Yeah, I've forgotten that.
We then took John to our replica Lancaster cockpit. This is a replica cockpit, but it's got all the original equipment inside.
Yeah.
And we've made access a little bit easier than it was in your day.
Uh-huh.
They have a replica spa to get
So
over.
that's the main spa.
It is.
Yeah.
So you can step on then. Can I swing over okay?
Yeah, that's where those little manual releases were. Oh, dear me.
And then you know where to sit, don't you?
Yeah. Oh. Well, the trailing aerial is there. I don't see, it's not on here, is it?
What are we missing?
The trailing aerial.
No.
No. Okay.
Does it all look familiar?
Well, I don't remember that for sure. Remember that, of course.
Yeah.
Jones plugs.
What are you tapping out though? What?
Nothing, just...
Oh right, I thought you. So the equipment in front of you there, John, is it all now familiar with you?
Yes, this is. Say the trailing aerial was there. Sure.
It's amazing. It's 80 years ago, and he remembers all the detail of it. So the window to your left there, John. Could you see clearly then when you were out? You could actually see clearly through there.
Oh, I could see the wing, the trailing edge of the wing, both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you were doing this low-level stuff on Operation Manna, you were able to see the Dutch people waving with the flags and everything.
Oh yes, we'll see them through there. Yeah. I think that was a fuse board, lots of fuses. That's where the little thingamajig. Oh, here's your map of...
Yeah, that's your navigator's position.
Yeah. This is where the flight engineer used to do all his changing tanks, wing tanks.
Oh, and that's where the bomb aimer went down there.
Down there, yeah. Used to lie face down on there. Never had much to do with this end of it at all.
Take you back.
Well, yeah, I suppose it does. That was armour plating.
This there.
That was the only bit of armour plating there was, I think.
So sit down, John, and talk us through the radio and what you remember of it and how it worked.
Oh, dear me.
We're not going to test you on this later, so...
Little tuning indicator.
Yeah, I think that flashed green, didn't it? When
Green,
yeah.
green with a... Just to tell you when you were on the right.
So the top is actually the transmitter and the bottom is
that's the transmitter.
And then there is high, medium and low frequencies that you could use. And then you could, was it writing in pencil or Chinograph the frequencies that you were using on each mission on that card there and then wipe them off afterwards?
Never used that. No.
John starts working through the dials on the radio.
Yeah.
What does that one do?
Well, it puts you on the frequency, if you're using yellow.
It looks so primitive now, doesn't it? With what we have today, but at the time it must have been
State of the art.
Yeah, but how heavy it was, and the size of everything. It's just incredible.
I remember on the Berchtesgaden trip,
Yeah.
I was the only one of the wireless operators on the squadron that managed to get the wind broadcast. Because the reception was so bad.
Yeah.
But somehow or other I managed to get it, But we found out afterwards, as I say, I was the only one that had actually...
Were you able then to transmit it to the other aeroplanes that were with you, or was it just...
Oh, no, it was peculiar to where we were, of course. Oh, no, I don't remember any intercom at all between aircraft. They may have, I don't know. No, the only intercom was, between the crew. Into crew.
Yeah. And when would you use the Morse key then? When was that used?
Well, that wasn't used very often, of course. Possibly to find our way back somehow. Yeah.
Were you in voice communication back to base then, through your radio?
Oh, yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's what all this was for. So we could, transmit to base.
And it wasn't encrypted in any way, it was just open speak. It's incredible, that, isn't it?
It seems we didn't do an awful lot, really, when you think about it. But, we were just there in case, I suppose.
Well, you say that, but then, you were winding aerials in, you were releasing stuck bombs, throwing chocolate out the back, you mentioned.
Oh, dear me, no. Something...
That must have been a fantastic sight, though, when you were flying so low over Holland.
Yeah, it was. That was quite a... Yeah, we flew over. I was seeing this anti-aircraft gun always stuck with me, and the 4 or 5 Germans round it, and there it was, pointing, and... Yeah.
Well, that's incredible, that, because people talk about, they're seeing the Dutch... the Dutch civilians cheering and waving, and
they were. Oh, yeah,
and yet it's seeing that anti-aircraft gun, which is such an important piece of history that stands out for you. It's incredible, really. So when you actually threw this chocolate out, you had to walk down to the back of the aeroplane.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I suppose it must have done not all that far, is it? Yeah, we threw it. It must have had the door open. Left the door open. Certainly threw chocolate out. I know I remember doing that.
And all the crew did that, did they?
As far as I know, all the crew, all the planes that took part, you did that. It wasn't just our crew, I'm sure.
So the bombers would have always been accompanied by fighter planes, would they?
They weren't always, no, but certainly on certain of the raids that your dad was on, they definitely were, because it's mentioned that they were supported by Mustangs and Spitfires.
Daylight, particularly.
Yes, yeah.
They would have been.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing the?
What's that?
Do you remember seeing the supporting aircraft?
I think I saw Mustangs. They were a good aircraft. Mustangs. Don't remember seeing any Spitfires. Mustangs had a better range.
Did you see any other German fighters at all?
No, I didn't. No.
What's your most significant memory of all those flights that you took? Which is the thing that stands out the most? Is it seeing that German flag gun, or is it something else?
I remember the night raids. We were preceded by pathfinders.
Yeah.
And they put down red and green flares. I remember amongst all the burst and bomb bursts, etc., there were these red and green marker flares, that were flashing all the time. We had to bomb on the markers or whatever. Yeah.
And during this raid, obviously the pilot and the flight engineer, they were doing what they were doing. The bomb aim was doing. What was the role of the wireless operator during the time you were actually bombing? What would you have been doing?
Nothing.
Enjoying the ride.
Just looking out through the window, probably. No, I don't remember doing anything. No, as I say, we did very little, really.
Well, that's a bit of an understatement, but...
I mean, on a raid, how many radio communications would you normally have with the base?
Oh, every half hour.
Every half hour.
Yeah. Yes, every half hour.
And what information would you have been sharing with
Winds,
them?
weather forecast, with changes of wind, speed, or whatever. For the navigators' point of view, as much as anything, that was what it was for. Giving the navigator up-to-date information as far as he could.
And were you communicating anything back to the base?
No.
So,
No.
under what circumstances would you have had to radio the base?
I can't think of any situation where we'd have to contact base. Unless, as I say, on the way back we lost our way or something and wanted somewhere to land in this country. We had a code, a Q code. Have you heard of the Q code? No. It was a radio system called Q code, and there were a whole list of Q call signs, QDM, Q this, Q the other, whole list.
Oh, well, I've seen it with the weather when they give you a QFE and a QNH.
You could, instead of topping out plain language, you could communicate and ask questions. If you'd use this QDM, for instance, was
I think that was a direction.
What's the weather like there, or what's QD this or QD other. Never used it much, but that was one possible use for radioing base that I can think of, but I can't think of any other reason, unless there was something drastic. But I don't remember contacting base.
How does it feel sitting here after all these years?
I don't know. It's interesting, certainly. Yes. What did say? It doesn't mean anything really to me now.
But it was such an important part of your life for such a short,
I suppose it was,
intense
but I
period.
wasn't conscious then of it being important at all. Far from it.
Well, you were just a young lad. It was all perhaps good fun and...
Well, I was a lot of only 19, 20,
Yeah.
Hardly knew that the world existed in those days.
How did you end up with a mainly Canadian crew?
Pure chance, because at one stage of when the training was practically finished, trained aircrew from all over the country, from various training stations, air gunners, wireless operators, pilots, navigators, they were all called together to a place, oddly enough, called, it was RAF Wing. Rather odd, really, but that was the name of the station in Oxfordshire, RAF Wing. And we were all brought together there, and there was a huge crowd of aircrew, and they just walked around and picked people out as they felt like it. Purely random picking out of crew members. And I suppose these few Canadians, 5 of them must have somehow picked each other out. Gunner, wireless operator, bomber, pilot. He was a sergeant in those days. He'd probably pick the bomber out. And then those two would wander around and scout around. Oh, there's a wireless operator air gunner there, let's have him. And it was pure random selection, They didn't know each other. And then they formed a crew then of 7, and that was it. Yeah.
And your Canadian crew, have you kept in contact with any of them after the war?
I did try once, but no. No, they, as I say, they were whisked off
Back
home
home,
as soon as the war finished. They didn't hang around, not like we did, till a couple of years later. No, they were bundled off back home. Yes, I've got the names, and you've got the list of names and numbers. Yeah. One, the mid-upper gunner, his name was Black, Glenn Black. He was probably to us in those days, he seemed quite old. He must have, I guess he might have been 30-ish, which was old for an aircrew.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But we looked on him as being quite elderly. The other six of us are quite young, I suppose. But his address in Canada, I did write, never got anything. His name, Glenn Black, Heligoland, Alberta, Canada. Nothing else. So it must have been some little hillbilly town in Alberta called Heligoland. And, he must have been one of the inhabitants.
Yeah.
I thought, well, gracious me, a great big place like that and such a sparse address would find him, Heligoland. But I imagine it was just a little one-horse place out in the prairies somewhere, But what happened to the others, I don't know. Probably all passed on. Oh, that was another thing that was rather interesting. During the Wellington days, we were training there in Leicestershire somewhere. And in those days, I think it was a similar position to this, but there was a very pistol stowage here for the wireless operator. I think it was there permanently, I'm not sure, but certainly the Very pistol was here in this stowage. And for some reason or other, the pilot must have asked me to fire this, which I did. And away it went, I presume. But because of the insulation in the aircraft, particularly round that stowage, it started smouldering and burning smoke. Nothing drastic, but it was enough for the pilot to, we'll get down quick, They called me Flames after that. But yes, we landed down at some aircraft in the Midlands, good that those were, but I saw my mosquitoes for the first time, close to. We got out, of course, and put this fire out, whatever, nothing much. But there was these mosquitoes that I was interested in, lovely aircraft. That was one, this Very pistol.
Well, the Wellington, they were that geodetic structure, weren't they, with the fabric on the outside, so they would go up, but they were...
Well, I don't know where it was, but it was certainly in the Wellington. Certainly not this.
I saw in your logbook one of the Anson flights. The captain was Flying Officer Blackadder.
Was it?
Yeah. Which stuck with me just because of the comedy series. Have you seen that?
Could have been anybody who didn't take much notice of who the captain was. We were just fodder. No, it was another time we landed away for some reason. That was night time. I don't know why. But we landed at this station and it must have been fairly close to Kirmington. Must have been for some reason, because it was near an airfield much nearer Grimsby than we were. And we landed there. And it happened to be a training station for glider pilots, must have been prior to D-Day, And we were invited, well, I was anyway, the others were, invited to have a trip in a horse glider. So sure enough, I thought, oh yes, what chance. So then I climbed in this horse glider, and off we took. But the thing that impressed me more than anything else in this horse glider was the unbelievable noise. Oh,
Really?
It was overpowering noise of the air going past. Oh, it always stuck with me. I thought, well, fancy an engineless piece of machinery like that, and it's so noisy. I could have understood it if there'd been 6 Merlins going,
You were sat between 4 Merlins, weren't you, normally in a Lancaster?
Oh, yeah, no, but this was so noisy. Anyway, as I say, we came down and that was it. I'd had a trip in a horse glider. But, that was, I remember that, but it was the noise that impressed me. Couldn't believe it was so noisy. Yeah, I sat in between 4 Merlins. Yeah.
Did you have any training for what to do if you did get shot down? Any escape or evasion training?
I know we had training, must have been here at Ringley. We had a certain amount of training in parachute dropping, Would it be 15 feet? Used to have to go up on a platform and jump down. I'm sure it was 15 feet.
To simulate the speed of the ground you'd hit by parachute.
We had a little bit of training on that, but nothing else, I don't think. I see a parachute there. I think that's where mine must have been. Didn't wear it.
No.
Had the harness, of course, all the time. And the May West on. But the parachutes were quite close enough to... No, you just had to grab a chute and get out as fast as you could, I suppose. There was no training. Hop over here and down to the door. Or down through the front, somehow.
Well, one thing I read about the wireless operator, it was next to the cabin air heating, and it was the
it was the comfiest. It was warm. Yeah.
People complained about the cold when they were flying.
It was a comfortable spot. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
And you'd got windows and...
Yeah, it was semi-luxury, I suppose, when you think about it. It was an easy time. Gosh.
What did you do for the loo on one of these planes?
That I don't remember going to.
There was
had an Nelson.
The back one,
just a can, about halfway down. I never used that. Don't remember using it anyway. Well, I didn't. Sure I didn't. Yes, that was the revision.
Better than a Vulcan, then.
They had a little bottle there to use.
Sorry?
A little bottle there.
Really?
No, we had a Nelson.
Nothing for number 2, though,
No, well, a bucket, I think, in an emergency.
So what was it? I'm always intrigued by the, you see these sort of movies or film of bombing flights and the flak. I mean, did you used to that you presumably...
you could see it flak bursting all over the place.
How did you feel about, what was, just...
I don't know, it was just a spectacle. Didn't think anything of it, as I remember. I won't forget those aircraft that I saw through this window. Well, apart from that little bit of canvas at the end. Yeah, that was all shredded, just that particular one.
When you were given your targets, did you think, oh my God, not there? Or was it just another trip?
Didn't bother. Don't think we bothered. Didn't mean anything to us. We weren't planners or hierarchy. We were just fodder. We just took it in our stride, and I don't remember thinking deeply about anything, really, in those days. Nothing profound about it at all.
It was your job.
It was something to do.
When you signed up, did you sign up for a particular role? Were you hoping to be a pilot?
I did, oddly enough. I signed up when I was 17 and a half in Manchester. So I went there and signed on, got my number, but they wouldn't take me till I was 18.
Right.
And of course I was working in industry up till then, 15, 16, 17. What was I going to say? Oh yes, when I was 18, sure enough the letter came, and that was it. Off I went when I was 18. I think that was in May. I think it was May, must have been. Went down to London, St John's Wood. It was somewhere near Regent's Park Zoo, because that's where the canteen was. Oh, we were all raw, callow youths in those days. And we were housed in must have been a block of flats. I was housed in what must have been the janitor's broom cupboard, I think, on the ground floor. Tiny little place. There were three of us plus me. I can remember the names. It was Roy Senior. He was from Barnsley. There was a chap called Peter Meadows from Chopwell. That's in Northumberland, somewhere. And a little Welsh fella, Taff. I don't know what his name was, but he was from Merthyr, I think. And there were four of us in this little. It must have been not much bigger than this, what I remember of it. 2 bunks, 4 bunks. We used to feed in the zoo canteen, Regent's Park Zoo.
So you were saying how were you selected for radio wireless op as opposed to any other?
Oh, well, luckily, because I went into industry at 15 and I was training as an electrical wireman, wiring switchgear. And I thought at the time, because of what little bit of wiring experience I'd achieved, that wireless operator sounded logical, it's a bit electrical sounding, so I'd put down aircrew. You have to volunteer for aircrew, of course. I wanted to be a wireless operator air gunner, and that's what I went in as, wireless operator air gunner. And I was that for most of the way through the training. Until halfway through the training, it was changed because of the advent of more sophisticated electrical gear. This, for instance, would come into use then. Because of that, we were reclassed as signallers. Instead of WAP-AG, you had an S for signallers. See, that was the wing that we aimed for, when we were fully trained, not WAP-AG.
Yeah.
That's what it started out as.
Yeah, I've seen those old brevets with
Yeah.
So the wireless operator would that have been a gunner as well?
Originally, but
Well,
then
originally, we did have some training on Brownings, but not a lot, because most of the training was on wireless, of course, being a bit more involved than guns. But as I say, after the training was finished, we'd become signallers by then, with just an S, brevet. What was I going to say?
And how difficult was this equipment to use? I mean, it looks awful, but...
I don't know, just shown how, told how, I suppose, and took it in at that time.
Yeah.
Must have been about 12 months, I think, at radio school, which was quite a lot, really.
It's as though it's been designed to help because it's got that colour coding on it.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't. I certainly haven't seen that on modern.
No.
Certainly in the
You
Vulcan,
won't see
there's
that,
colour
no.
coding.
But I remember when I first started out, very first training we did was on de Havilland Rapid 6.
Yeah.
The old. They did a bit of flying, about 6 of us, I think, or 4 or 5 in this Dragon 6. Did a bit on that. And then at radio school, halfway through the training, when we were a little bit proficient, we were taken up solo on Proctors, Percival Proctors.
Oh, right, yeah.
There was a pilot and just the wireless operator, and we went on this Proctor, and we had to, of course, I had to communicate with base to do our stuff. But we took on board with us an armful of coils, different coils. Quite prehistoric, really, when you think about it. I mean, we just didn't put a switch on like you did here. Had to exchange a coil, put a coil in for various changes. It was quite prehistoric, really. I remember that, taking these coils. But anyway, we passed that and went on to these then.
What was the purpose of the coil? What did that do?
I presume it was changing frequencies and such like, or something technical. Don't remember that. But again, we popped these coils in and tapped away using these Q codes. Used them a lot at that stage. Whole list of Qs. And then we went on from Proctors and that. Oh, we went up on Anson's then, that's right, up to Dumfries. I remember Dumfries because the weather up there must have been summertime because the weather was absolutely glorious. We used to do training flights around the Orkneys and Shetlands.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Beautiful scenery. Of course, you could see through the Anson easily.
Yeah.
That was nice. That was good, that. And then from there we went down to the Midlands on Wellingtons then. A bit more concentrated then on Wellingtons. I don't know if they're in the log or not, but we did some quite a number of window. You've heard of window.
Yeah.
Did some window raids over the North Sea. I don't think they were classed as raids. I'm not sure.
They're certainly not in the operational record, but they might be in your logbook.
Yeah.
But I think unless you went on a sortie that was, it had to be something specific to be classed as a sortie for one of your tour trips. I'm not sure that would have been, but it'll be in your logbook. But definitely.
I'm sure. Yeah, I remember because we flew quite a way out from the North Sea on a predetermined plan, flinging this window out through must have been some sort of chute here. I know it was me that used to, sure it was me that fed it out. Sure it was.
That was just like little aluminium strips or something.
Strips of aluminium, about that long.
So this would have been a deception flight for another raid to make the Germans think there was a raid coming in from the North Sea.
It affected the radar.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know whether there's 1 or 101 aircraft just confuse them. That was the idea of it. We did quite a few of those, I'm sure we did. Yeah, Window, it was called, Window. And then we went from Wellingtons on to Lancasters, to Lindholm. I think they called it a conversion unit, because it converted from 2 engines to 4. That was near Doncaster somewhere. That was in the winter time because I remember there were teams of us had to go out on the runway and de-ice it, get rid of ice, snow and ice on the runway. Seems a bit odd that, but I remember doing that at Lindholm.
Yeah, I think you formed up with your Canadian crew in December of 1944.
Was it?
Yeah, and then I think your first operation was in
February
1945. Yeah.
No, March.
March was it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. You joined the squadron. I
joined the squadron in February.
Yeah.
In the mess and in the NAFI, there was a game going at the time. 2 games. I've never come across them since. It was called Shove Halfpenny. I have to knock it like that. I remember that. I've never seen that since. And another game I've noticed that we used to play, must have been in the NAFI, was Skittles with a ball on a string.
Oh, yeah.
I've
seen that in various
skittle
pubs.
ball.
Yeah.
You don't see them in pubs now, I don't think. But certainly that shove halfpenny used to be quite the thing. in those days.
John, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic information. It's incredible, really.
Well, I don't,
It's so insignificant to you, but so...
But really interesting
I
to
don't
people.
see what
yeah.
you see in it, frankly. But still, if you found it interesting, I'm glad.
Well, it won't be just us, let me tell you. It's fascinating to a lot of people, that.
Make sure you follow us in your podcast app so you don't miss out on future episodes of the Avro Heritage Museum podcast.